Hello everyone. In today's challenge, we will be creating different variations of radio button component. First, what is a radio button component? So you see from last two challenges, and today is the third one, we are talking about input, different type of input types. So radio button is a type of input where user is allowed to select only one item from the given list of items. Means a radio button alongside with the checkboxes, and in future we'll talk about switches are just an alternative selection control that can be used to enter mm, decisions, and user can also select preferences such as settings and maybe food preferences based on whatever platform we are creating. The best practices actually to for creating the radio button are same as we had them in checkboxes, which are just keeping the labels clear and concise, and the touch area being reasonable based on what platform they are being made for. So this for this particular challenge, we will also try to make it for a different breakpoint. So to see how that can be done quickly. Now let's explore some inspiration that we found on Movin. So this one is from Gentler Streak, and you can see here user is supposed to select what status they are on. So the only one of these can be applicable. So you can see, and here let's analyze some detail in how they are created too. So you here you will see that we have a gray border for unselected state, and here when user has selected it, it becomes orange to match the branding, and the primary color may be like here in ZocDoc we are pairing yellow and blue nicely, and here again user can only select one of these options. This is the default state, which is rather gray, and this when it is selected it becomes blue to pair with the discard design. Then we have these on filter screens, you will see checkboxes in use like a lot. So here you can see that you can select the nightly price or a total price. So look at this. Here it is gray, and here when it is selected it becomes blue to match the button styling. Here we have a firm again. We have a whole bunch of checkboxes in different categories. So here I'll tell you something interesting. For checkboxes, for radio buttons, and even in future for switches, it is always best practice for the most time to just stack them vertically like this setup: 1 2 3 4 vertically, 1 2 3 4, again 1 2, stack vertically. But in some cases, very rare cases, like they have done this beautifully, you can use it this in grid view, or maybe stacking them in more than one columns. So yeah, this shouldn't happen a lot, but they have done this beautifully. So if you do run into a situation, you can try this. And then we have shop. This screenshot is from shop, and you can see that only one of these sorting options can be applied. And then this one is from Binance. I don't know how that is pronounced, but yeah, you can select one of these items to continue verifying your identity. Sweet. Now we are going to just gonna go and create and learn. Here I found the radio button two states that we saw in our inspiration. One of them is unchecked and the other is checked. And what we are going to do is, we can create the components out of them. You can see that this is a frame of 20 by 20, because in previous challenge we realized that for 16 sized text that we are using for this particular font that we are using, which is what is the font we are choosing? I forgot the name. But yeah, this one. And yeah, some grotesque. And 20 sized icons look the best for them. So I just made sure that moving forward, we keep that consistency. 20 by 20, 20 by 20. We do want to talk about how can we create these two components from scratch. So what I'm going to do is create a frame by clicking F, and I'm pressing shift to make it, whole square. and it is 20 by 20. I am going to quickly add a stroke of 400 around it, which is too light. Let's make it 500. And I'm going to give it a generous amount of roundness. So you can see for this particular case, we have a checkbox, yeah, sorry, a frame, and within it we have a vector, which is smaller than the frame. You can try that by placing another rectangle here, like we did in the previous challenge, or we can just simply rename this layer and just use this. Now we have to figure out that if one point outline is if it is good or not. So if here we saw that they are using the uh, one point stroke beautifully because they are using fill state at the background, so it made sense for them. You can either use that kind of design or you can simply follow the material design icon guidelines to have it at least 1.4 or 2 point round. So that's what I'm gonna do, making it 2 point round. Then I'm gonna make a copy, rename this here, change its color to this one, this. And also I'm gonna remove this fill. Now we need this dot. So I'm going to bring a rectangle and you can measure this by placing here. I'm just gonna try to see whatever looks fine. Or again, no problem. No problem measuring it. So vector, I'm gonna call this vector. Hmm. Let's try making it a little bigger and giving it generous amount of radius again. Yeah. So you can see it feels slightly bigger because we are not adding any padding around it. So I'll tell you why I'm taking this scene, but a little later, based on what we realized in the checkboxes challenge. So, uh, anyways, let's pair this and create a component set. You can create this a component set, and or you can create this one a component set. So I'm gonna delete this one. So always, it is always a good practice to have only one name for the components only one time. So you see radio button component. If I have same name, I should probably rename them accordingly. So maybe I will call it material slash or sorry dash material design, or for any reason if I need two versions of it, I should rename them properly. Otherwise, it will be difficult for me to find them. So that's why for ease, I'm going to remove the second one. You can keep any one of these. So here I'm going to copy this. So in the previous challenge, I did mention that checkboxes, you can use them like this particular area separately and not makes text clickable, which is like people do it. Very rarely I've seen it in some not very good UX apps, like the apps which don't have like much good UX. So later we did end up making these kind of components where whole row is clickable. So that's what we are going to do. So you see it, we like I analyzed some screenshots and realized that creating this kind of component where there only one checkbox is being used or radio button alone and the text right next to it is not clickable, it's not very good UX. So we can just remove this section. We don't need it. And if you do want to make it, this method will be same as we followed in checkboxes. We know the method. It shouldn't be a problem. So let's remove this. Now I'm gonna bring this base. So you can see I am using the same component I made for the checkboxes, and I'm just for consistency, I'm gonna fix the padding on the both sides, and I'm gonna show you a magic trick. So here you see we have all my components placed here, and if I click one of these, I should be able to press this, and these stacked rectangles, and all of them will be selected. So what I'm going to do is just go first here, control copy, like undefault one. and I'm going to select these four. So what I'm doing is I pressed one and then I pressed shift to click the rest of these, and I'm going to click paste to replace. Then I'm going to click this one and I'm going to select all these and I'm going to replace them. That's one way. So another way what I'm going to do is I'm gonna turn it back and I'm going to add a number so it is easier to find for me. So I'm gonna add 8 next to it. And now I'm going to select all these of them, sorry, all these, and from the drop down here, I am going to select, I'm just going to write 8. So I see by component and I'm going to replace it. So we saw a problem there. These three need to be in checked state. So I'm going to update that. This should also be in checked state. But here I need to like override the color because that by selecting that it was overridden. So let's see what color we were using here. 500. Awesome. So it was like these are two methods you can use to just create another component that you need to use, like there are that are similar looking. So we needed the same controls like having this in 48 height and then the padding almost same padding, and all these states needed to be same. So we also have the label property already applied, so it was easier. Now what we are going to do is we are in this particular challenge we want to explore what happens that if I'm designing for a web app and I need to work on the responsiveness. And we have talked about constraints and the typography in another video, that typography will be scaled according to the screens and everything. So what happens to the components, like here from left to right, mostly constraint handle the stuff, but this is about line height, sorry, touch area, sorry. So touch area for web or a laptop, you can see here this arrow that I am moving. So this is not 48 by 48. This can be clicked. If I hover over it, this icon, which is 20 by 20, it is more than enough to click that area. Meaning in web, even if we make the touch area 24 by 24, it should work fine. But we should try to at least keep it 28 by 28. But honestly, uh, when needed, 24 doesn't hurt either. So we need smaller area. So we need a version of this component that can be used when I move to another like size screen. So here I'm going to go in the properties and add the breakpoint property. In this one particularly will be used for mobile. You can call this mobile, or if you want to call it small, like whatever the naming pattern you are following, you can do use it. For ease, I am just adding mobile. Now I'm going to select all 8 of them and I'm going to press add. So all 8 of them are copied. I'm going to drag them here, and breakpoint I'm going to type for these new ones. I'm going to call them web. So what should change when we are making the web component? First, we don't need to have an element this big, which is 48 by 48. We will try to reduce the height. So it will be, let's try 40. It is for if we are using it in a drop down and stuff, 40 looks good. So I can honestly, but let's try short, smallest possible. I said 40 is good, but you see it looks funny. We definitely need some padding and some spacing. So let's try increasing the spacing bit by bit. 28. Now imagine all of these stacked and this will look weird. Let's try 32. 32 should work fine. I am going to show you that this is 20 by 20, and whatever size uh, we choose actually. Oh, yeah, typography. We need to. So in the scale, depending on what type of scale you made, if you are using 16 here, you can try to make this bigger. So right now here I'm using 16. I can try to make it 18, or we can keep the body size consistent throughout the typography. Sorry, responsiveness. This is your decision. There is a separate video on that. We won't go in those details, but I'm going to zoom into 100% and see if this is readable. Well, actually it is. Meaning, anytime for spacing, I have like this rule. Anytime I am like, okay, this looks good for the spacing, how much spacing we added. We're like, okay, this looks good. Add a little bit more. So I'll try to add 36, or maybe I'll try to make it 40. So it looks, well balanced. One other thing we can do is we can reduce the padding from the side if we want to. We can make it 16, or maybe we can make it 20, not 10, 20. So just there is a little difference from the sides, this one in the padding and spacing, or maybe it is adjusted more balanced in a more balanced way as we reduce the vertical spacing. I'm talking about this. So if I select this layer, the top and bottom spacing is 12. So here I added 24 because normally a horizontal spacing, like padding, right and left one are supposed to be bigger than the top and bottom one. So that's the same rule that I applied here. So here it becomes 8. So here I am using 20. Um, the good spot is to multiply the number vertical padding by 2 or 3. So actually 16, 20, 24, all three of them can work fine based on how we are keeping the consistency in design. So yeah, this is how we added our breakpoints. Since they are responsive, we can simply resize them. So there is no need to touch the this sizing width of this component. And here, if you run into a situation where you need to add more component, we can add that. So I want to add a tag which will be, shown in some of these. So let's add a tag. I just wrote down a text tag, and I'm going to apply shift a property, applied, call it tag. Tag is not separately clickable, it's just a visual indicator. Then I will just remove the vertical padding and make it manually 24, maybe 28. And I am going to give it a dark fill so it is clear, and copy will be white. Maybe I want the copy to be 14 but medium, or maybe bold. Yeah, sounds good. And the padding will be a little more, and I am gonna give it again generous amount of radius, corner radius, so we can hmm, so it is round. So this tag, there is one more detail about the spacing that if you look at this visually, you can see that you know what, not even visually, I'm going to select this and I am going to bring this line here to attach to the head of the T, and I am going to bring another line and I'm going to bring it to place it here. You can see that the vertical high padding and the bottom padding, they look vi- like visually they look different. So this happens sometimes with typography because we don't have much control on how much padding they have added on the top and the bottom. So it bothers only when we contain it into the area like this. So in these cases we can apply. So we want 28. I am going to make it hug content, and I'm gonna see like it already has a 4 point padding on the top. So let's try to fix that. If I add 4 points at the bottom, now it is visually balanced. One way we can just actually stop there because it has become 24 in height. We are in good spot. Or we can now add whatever we want. So I want two more on the top and I will add two more, making the bottom one 6. So we can do this. Actually, I don't like this. So I'll maybe stop it with 2 and 4. So this tag, I am going to make it a component. I'm going to call it list tag. and I'm going to make a copy of it, Control X, placing it here, and I'm going to select one of these layer within and paste it here. Now you can see the problem, but we should be able to fix this. Let's select actually all of these layers. I'm just selecting them and I'm going to paste my component within it. Now we want the tag that we definitely don't want the tag hanging in the center, especially when we know that this list item will have different name. So I'm going to select this text layer, all of these, and I'm going to make it fill container. And yeah, we fix that. Now we definitely don't want the tags in everywhere. We are going to select this and apply a disappearance property. So show layers, we can call it show tag, and let's fix that. We want to it to be, where is my tag property here? I want it to be turned off by default. So we have the component ready. Now we are going to see the use cases for this. So this is the screen I prepared that we will be using the radio buttons in. And this has a very random question because I was so bored. And here we have a bunch of items. You can select this. Like this is the basic version I made, like, for a common list that you can use and create and stack and do anything with. Even in checkboxes we made this boring version, so I wanted to make a fun version here too. So that's why I will, quickly, you can apply all these rules of creating the states later on, but let's create something fun here. So here we have an icon and here we have a text, which is we can do it by, like this. And here is this icon. This needs to be replaced. All emojis, they need to be replaced. So with what? I want to replace them with the default state, yeah, means unchecked state of the radio button. So that's what I'm going to do. And for this particular design, I think we will require 24. So let's make it big. No worries. Now I'm going to select all three of these layers and I want to make them look like this. So I'm going to apply Shift A. When I do that, it has Figma auto applies some properties, which is this. So we should be able to fix this. So they applied a certain amount of gap by, making this equal. I am going to make it 12 point. Now I want to drag it. You see the problem. Now how do we fix it? We just learned that. We are going to go make it fill container. And I am going to call this layer my list 1, list item 1. And let's place, yeah. Now we want some padding. Let's add some padding. Added that. Drag it to resize it to fit whatever size we want it to be. And then we want it to be the height of 56. Yeah, 56. And let's place it next to here. Again, more radius. Let's fill it with the same color. And yeah, we have this. Now I'm going to replace my this icon everywhere. So you see now this is like not squarish version, and we also saw it in action and combined with another emoji. Now another thing we can do is to, means you don't have to always have to choose a light colored stuff. You can simply create this fill to be dark orange. No problem in that. The situation here will be that the main component will require a variation. So let's go back. You know what? First, just override it and see what color suits it the best. So one, we can try a lighter orange color, maybe a little more orange. Yeah, this looks actually good. Orange 200 by as a default color. But what happens if I uncheck it? I want it to be definitely not orange. Maybe orange 100. Yeah, we found our colors 200 and 100. So here I am gonna go. Honestly, you can override the component for if you have a base component ready, but I want to show you first have like the way I just change the colors within the component. No worries with the icons and smaller stuff, but I do want to show you, how you can just keep adding other components within, existing ones. First, I need to fix the property. What is this property? State. Okay, now I'm just gonna drag it, make it big, and it is a color property that we are applying. And by default, the default state we have is for blue. Now we want it for orange. Maybe blue can be your orange color, sorry, primary color. So you probably would want to call it primary, and orange, if it is your secondary color, you would want to call it secondary. So your preference. Now, what was the color that we decided? So default state will be a bit lightish orange, which is orange 200, and this will be orange. No, 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 wrong decision. This one. So if you can't see it, no worries. We will see it again soon. I'm gonna copy this, Control C, and I am going to replace it with the actual. Oh yeah, why do I need to copy paste it? I made a mistake. I can simply update the secondary color and reset this instant and resize it to 24 again. Yeah, we probably want to also increase the size because we know here we will be using 24 by 24. No worries. Like we can also do that. Yeah, so another thing, but since we only are talking about the checkboxes, but you do see the problem here, right? So because with the orange layer, the colorful, like if the honestly, if the background color is colorful, not white or lightish gray, we do run into this situation. Any color element over the color element can create a lot of weird looking details. So it was looking prettier before, so we need to fix that. So maybe we need to fix this color too. Let's fix that. Maybe a white one and like orange 100. So we can try quite a few things. We can have it 20 by 20, making it a little small. Then I'm applying Shift A around it, giving it a little bit padding, and then adding a fill so it can be white. Let's see what happens. We definitely want it to be round. Hmm. Maybe this round or maybe this round. Yeah. Let's see. So this will be called my fruit, this layer. And we can either try to have this like pure white, or we can just slightly increase or decrease the color. Of course, increasing is not working. So let's decrease it, like make it lighter. Or, white is our best friend. Let's do that. So maybe white. And actually, we can also try white with lighter opacity. Yeah, a little more one. Yeah. It has that slight orange thing that we want. And we can also apply some effects. So we can remove, like make the background a little blur if we kept the opacity lesser. So we can increase this to 20. That won't actually cause any things because there is no textured background behind it. So it shouldn't be making any difference. So that failed epically. Now we have like two ways like three ways actually. Here, standard boring version of a component. Here we made it interesting. And here we can stay. By default, this line comes here, this list item is looking like this, but when we select, we can make it like this, or we can do the opposite. Like it's your decision how you want to make the difference, and there are a lot of other ways you can move forward with this. Now, this is like one row setup where all the elements are placed in one row, one, two, three. Here, what happens if we have this selection, this kind of component? Now, we need to go in a little more details with the auto layout. We have a heading and we have a supporting text and we have our icon. Let's actually bring the actual icon now that we'll be using. Let's use the gray one. So maybe, yeah, it's good. Now we need to make a few serious decisions, which are like, how do we pair this? We can try to pair it with this, but when, let's try Shift A, and then if I pair it with this, you see, none of these settings will give us the way we want it, items to be placed. So you need to first know how you want to place your item. So I want these two to be aligned. So these two will have their own auto layout. I'm gonna auto layout on heading and this supporting text and calling it content. Now I need to pair it with this one. Let's call it card. Now we are good. Like we have enough spacing. Like I added 20 gap here. The both of these had 4 gap, and this looks so sweet. But you see, if I zoom in, even if I don't zoom in, you can see the problem that this C is the layer that is 24 in size, and even if I make it 24 in size, this feels a bit outside. Like it is not vertically, sorry, on the top. It is not. Why I'm talking? I should show you. Yeah, you see the problem. Even if I make it 20, you see this line is causing a visual problem. So we can, you know, decide, let's not ignore it. Like I was going to say, we can ignore it uh, as a starter, but that will, make you a beginner designer. So let's try to fix it. So I'm going to select this radio button component, sorry, my variant, and I'm going to apply by pressing Shift A, another auto layout on this, and I'm going to call it icon. Now I am going to actually bring my line here and to see how much spacing that we need here. So I'm going to expand this padding and apply some of the padding on the top to bring it to the level where I want. Hmm. 4. Yeah, 4 visually looks balanced. So 1, we can try this and then you can either apply, no, 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 let's not do this. Yes. Align it in the top. So top 4 points stay there. So that's one way actually. The other way is you can just simply, so for this one, we can either remove, I'm going to ungroup it to, release my icon, and you can simply place your item here. So this is not always a good solution because what if this line in some component becomes bigger and you can see how tricky now, like it loses instantly loses balance as long as, as soon as this goes out of control. But for this one, you will see that yeah, it still looks good. So this solution can save you aligning this item in the center, can save you some time but not always. So this is like you can manually handle and visually balance stuff. So let's remove this because it is causing trouble. Now we need to add some padding on the area around, right and left. 24 by 24, drag it to place where we want it. Maybe we want 16 on the top. Okay, the rule that I told you guys about that, how much of a padding we need on the sides and the top. So the rule, let me repeat. So vertical padding, if it is 8, so the horizontal padding, which is right and left, it needs to be more than 8, sometimes 16. We usually multiply it one with 2 or 3, so it's 16 or 26, but that's not always the case. It's usually when our uh, sh- the container we are creating is rectangle state. So in cards, still we can do something. Means if our component becomes in a shape which is almost square, we can keep the right and left and top bottom padding equally. So I wanted to emphasize on that. Anyway, so on the top and the bottom padding, 12 is too much. Sorry, 16 is too much. I'm gonna apply 12. Let's give it a fill and give it to how much roundness? 12. So I'm gonna place it where I want it, with 16 point padding. So yeah, this is how we are just same spacing. So we want 40 points away from heading. So also this one, we want it to be 40 points away from heading. Awesome. So you can see we used this component, like the base component that we made in the different versions. And yeah, I will see you in some other lecture. Or challenge.